Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Mike, and we're live. It's a live stream. We got to check the volume as always, and hopefully the audio is going to be a little bit better this time around. Hopefully. Not sure how many folks are here. If you're here, give me a shout and let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? I'm going to type that just to make sure in case the audio is not working. Can you hear me? Hopefully everybody's doing great on this lovely Sunday, and life's treating you okay. Audio's fine. Hey, welcome, George. How are you? Thanks. Last time, I think you were here, George. I don't remember, but we had some trouble with the audio. I changed things up a little bit, try to get the audio in better shape. So hopefully, good. Omar, Collie, what's going on? Welcome. Glad to hear the audio is good this time. Last time it was not so good. Not good. What's going on? Everybody doing good today? Is it Sunday where you live? I know some of my friends, I've got a buddy that lives in Australia, my brother-in-law as well, and it's already Monday there as they sleeping away, and it's Monday. But anyway, yeah, last time here. Yeah, I thought you were last time, George. Good to see you again. Appreciate it. Where do you come from? Where are you hailing from? Are you in the U.S., Canada, Middle East, India? Where are you dialing in from? I'm just curious. Same for you, Omar. Where are you from? I just love knowing where folks are connecting from. It also helps me because it helps me think about time, when I should be doing those, when people are awake, what's easy for folks. Yeah, nice sunny day. I'm in New York, not New York City. I live about 5-6 hours, about 6 hours outside of New York City, and beautiful sunny day. A little cold, but a little sunny. Germany, very cool. And George, you're in Austria. Okay, you guys are neighbors practically. And Amir, welcome. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today, Amir. Good to see you. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Prime time live. That's right. We're hitting prime time. If that's the case, I'm probably battling with some interesting TV show or something that people like to watch if it's prime time. So I'm honored that you joined me today. What's going on in your countries? Are you guys locked down? I'm assuming you're locked down. And, in New York State, they've shut down all what they're calling non-essential businesses, any business that is deemed non-essential. Now, a lot of businesses are called essential these days that you'd question. But Max Kaufman, welcome. Ex-New Yorker, now Florida. Good for you, brother. Hopefully, Max, you had a great winter. This winter in New York, what part of New York, by the way? I'd love to know. Is it New York City or New York State? I'm in Rochester, New York, upstate. But we had a mild winter. We got a lot of snow, but none of it really stayed. We've had some decent sunshine, some good weather days. I almost got the motorcycle out once this year. I didn't do it because of the salt on the roads, obviously. You were in the Bronx. That's the real New York. Awesome. Amir, I'm glad you're here too. I really am glad you're here. So thanks for joining us today. Yeah, Max, is this the first time you've joined I was gonna say podcast? Is this the first time you've joined the live stream, or have you been on the live stream before? Daniel, hello. You escaped Barcelona. Now you're in Portugal. Very cool. I've said this before. Barcelona, one of my favorite cities in the world. I am in love with Barcelona. I mentioned, I think in the last live stream that I think it was the last one, but we were there, my wife and I, last year, around this time, a little later, in late March, early April. And I got to tell you, if I could, like when we left Barcelona, I just thought to myself, what do I have to do to live in this city? It's such a great city. So welcome. Glad you're in Portugal. Also a great country. But yeah, Omar's saying, Omar, you are in Germany. You're saying they've locked down almost everything, but gladly I can still go to work. That's great. That's really good. Yeah, Spain's getting crushed. It really is. Spain, Italy. It's sad to see. Although I love the Spanish spirit, the spirit of the Spanish people, the Italian people singing to each other across the courtyards and just doing some crazy stuff to make it work. That's the beauty of the human spirit. I'm going to just turn my volume down a little bit. I don't want to clip here, so I'm just kind of playing with this. Let me know if the volume needs to go up or down. But yeah, I am so impressed by what people are doing to get through all this. This is great. Nice little group of people. George, you're in Tyrol, and we have full lockdown. Yeah. They're letting us travel. I can go to the supermarket. We can still conduct business. So, I had one face-to-face meeting this week. With one individual. We had a video shoot actually. So there was two people, my client and a videographer, because he wanted to do some content for folks regarding coronavirus. I've got some work out of the office next week, but so they haven't locked it down in the sense that we're not allowed to move about, but we're all being very careful, obviously. I already work from home, so I'm used to being at home, but it's kind of crazy for a lot of people that have never done that before. So yeah. What else is going on, guys? I'm assuming that all of you are still working. Has anyone been hit by this in the sense where they've been laid off or they've lost their job because of the corona? And I'm just going to read Daniel. After 3 years of living in Barcelona, I'm honestly disappointed by the devotion to service and the overall quality of service you can expect there. Yeah, fair enough. As someone from the hospitality industry, it really gets to me. Now, I hear you. If you live in America, so my wife is South African, and in the early '90s, we moved back to South Africa. Living in New York, we moved back to South Africa, and we have a certain level of service here. It's not always great, but I think America's pretty good at customer service. In the most like painting with broad strokes. We went to South Africa and it just was very old school. There was no thought for like the customer comes first. It was always the company's way or the highway. And I remember being so shocked. This was it was the early '90s that like, how can they run a business and not treat their customers better? But that was just the culture. That's just the way things were done. The people weren't bad people, but the attitude was just different. And you do start to expect a certain thing. And when you don't get it, it can be very frustrating. Supermarket, bank, post office, pharmacy, everything else is closed. Same here. Although we have manufacturing facilities still open, auto repair. Interestingly, they shut down all non-essential businesses in New York. They left the liquor stores open. You can still buy alcohol. And here's the thinking behind that. Maybe you guys have heard this, but the big concern is that the hospitals are going to get overrun. And they thought if we shut down the liquor stores, the alcoholics and people that drink a lot of alcohol, they'll go through detox. They'll go through withdrawal. And then they're going to show up in the hospitals because they're going to have flu-like symptoms. They're going to feel sicker than a dog. And we don't want alcoholics detoxing right now. Let them do it at a different time. So they kept liquor stores open as essential businesses during the coronavirus, which is kind of crazy. I get it. I mean, it makes total sense to me. But on the other hand, it's a little ironic if you ask me. Daniel says he was studying there now online classes. Yeah, my daughter, my youngest child, her university, her college was closed down. She's back home now and finishing her classes online as well. George, you have a hotel and losing a lot of money at the moment. So you own a hotel. That's heartbreaking. Anybody in the hospitality industry, my heart just goes out to you because this is brutal. It's brutal. And I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I'm not saying that I think this is a conspiracy. I'm not hostile to governments doing what they have to do. On the other hand, I question this response a little bit because there's an economic impact. And people say, well, you're choosing money over lives. But what people don't think about is that the economy is directly tied to lives. Like people... there's like 6.2 million children under 15 years old that will die this year alone and died last year due to poverty-induced reasons. Like 6.2 million children across the globe will die, according to research, because of poverty-induced reasons. And back in the 1990s, early 90s, it was 12.5 million, but we brought that down. Free markets and healthy economies have helped reduce poverty, in half, poverty-induced deaths. And so the one piece of this that people don't consider is, yeah, it's not just that it's going to be tough economically, but this is going to be life-threatening for a lot of people. They're going to lose everything that they've worked hard to build in the blink of an eye. And I'm not saying that we're doing it wrong, but I do question, like, is there a different way to do this that doesn't devastate the global economies? So, George, my heart goes out to you, and I do wish the best for you because this is tough. So, Omar, I would normally work 3 to 4 days a week, but now I can only work 1 or 2 days. Yeah, it's tough. And then Amir's asking, Mike, may I ask you to briefly introduce yourself and what your background is in a dead time? Do you mean like, Amir, like if there's a quiet moment in the stream that I can introduce myself? I'd be happy to do that just now, actually, because it's kind of just getting started. But yeah, I'd be happy to share some of that. George says, "You're so right. The responsive virus will kill more people than the virus itself." You know that, and that's all I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying that we're doing it wrong. My gut tells me there's got to be a better way. I don't really understand the response. That like again, I'm saying this. I don't understand it being from ignorance. I am too ignorant to know the facts. So I'm not saying I'm critical, although I do tend to be a critical thinker, but I don't understand it. And I do wonder, why aren't we talking about the resulting deaths that will happen from the way that we respond to this? The other thing too, you look at other diseases and you say these other diseases, like the flu itself, the flu wipes out tens of thousands. Now they're saying, look, this could wipe out millions of people. So, I mean, we're not seeing those kinds of numbers, and maybe it's because they're doing the right things, but it's it's hard to know what to do in the middle of a crisis. It's always easy to say what other people should do. It's always easy to look at the past and point fingers. So I don't want to be guilty of that. But on the other hand, I can't help but wonder, like, are we cutting off our nose to spite our face? And I've said this before. I have loved ones that will be vulnerable. They're vulnerable to this flu. I have loved ones that are elderly. I have loved ones that have compromised health. And if they get this flu, it's going to be really bad. Like, they'll be lucky to live through it. So I'm not being poo-pooing. People are accusing me online of being, I love Trump so much that I'm pretending this virus is not a thing. That's ridiculous. But anyway, you didn't come here to hear me ramble about that kind of stuff, I don't think. Spinks, as someone who has worked out 3, 4 times a week in the gym for the last 4 years doing powerlifting, nice. Right now, where all gyms are closed, I hear my body screaming for heavy exercise. Anyone can relate. Yeah, that's got to be hard. Like, when your whole life you're just physically active. Maybe you're very social. You're someone that mixes up with people. Maybe the kind of work you do requires you to be with people. Then all of a sudden, you're just stripped of all that. That's not easy. I used to run a lot. I used to be a runner when I was young. And if I didn't get a run in, I'd start getting uptight and irritable. It was hard. So I feel for you. I am not a runner now. I don't know if you could tell by looking at me, but I'm not an athlete anymore. I should be running, but I'm not. So, George, yeah, if you're used to sport, it's hard at the moment. Absolutely. Daniel says maybe a total restructuring of the financial system, some kind of e-money ending and chipping of people for the purpose of tracking and preventing future outbreaks. Boy, when I read that, Daniel, I just think of like apocalyptic visions of totalitarian governments controlling everything we do and being able to turn off our ability to buy or sell if we don't fit. Like, look at China. Like, if China right now could chip everybody, which they could. Let's say China could chip everybody, and they could control the money supply that way, and you couldn't do anything without being tracked. You couldn't buy a bag of groceries without the government approving it, controlling it, et cetera. Think of what China would do with that. So your idea is technologically a good idea, but my concern is that it gets in the hands of the wrong people, which, let's face it, the wrong people aren't just like one or two bad villains. Like, most people in power abuse their power. I don't mean most. Like, a lot of government, like, all of us are easily corrupted is what I'm trying to say. And you put that kind of power even in the average person's hands, and it doesn't usually end well. So that could work, but then what do you do about how people just treat each other so badly and would use that to control free speech and all that kind of stuff? So George says you're not by law allowed to do any sports outside at the moment. George, are you guys even allowed just to take a walk? I mean, I'll walk the streets. I'll walk my neighborhood. And, if you see somebody on the road, which you do, walking their dog, you just stay to the other side and say hello from across the road. Are you guys allowed to just walk about, or are you having to stay indoors essentially at all times? George says, let's get back to the gold standard, or a gold standard. Boy, that's been a message for a long time. Those days are long gone, aren't they? Essentially, our money is based on confidence. And no confidence, no money, and that's what we've got right now. I mean, wealth is just being wiped out because people are fearful, and that's what happens. I mean, that's life. Um, yeah, Daniel says this would be a perfect preparation for governments heading for totalitarianism, and I agree with you 100%. You know, when human beings are fearful, they'll give up anything for security. I look at America, 9/11, we had those attacks, and there's some other things happening in other countries at the time. But the average American was like, look, take any of my freedoms you need to, just keep me safe. I'm scared. And I think that governments use fear as an opportunity to grab up liberties. You know, there's a writer I want to say from the 1930s. His name was Hilaire Belloc. Hilaire Belloc, and Belloc, I want to say, Hilaire. I don't know if he was English or French, but he wrote a book. He wrote a number of books called The Servile State. And essentially his argument, and I'm a free market guy, but his argument was that like true capitalism, where a few people control the means to production, which mainly is now money supply. When a few people control the money supply, the masses feel vulnerable, and they are, right? They don't have the ability to do what they want to do. And Belloc's argument was that what happens is they then turn to the government, thinking that the government is going to help them. And then what really happens is the government takes advantage. I'm not sure if I just, it looked like the stream lagged for a minute there. So if you missed something, let me know. But we'll go from there. So Daniel says, hey, essentially, what does the government do? It does not create value, it just redistributes. So now when they say they will help, all the help will be paid from by the taxpayer. Daniel, you're not supposed to think like that. That's blasphemy. Yeah, you're speaking my language, Daniel. I think I'm with you, and I bet you a lot of other people are too. George says walk-ins allowed, but only alone or with your family. Sure. So Omar wants to know: is it smarter to save the money now, or it would be bad for the economy? I guess that's a both. It's a both and. I mean, so here's the thing. Like for me as a consultant, I have clients. Things are going relatively well. I am concerned what it's going to look like over the long haul. Will my clients get cold feet? Will they start to feel cash pressure and have to cut back on services like mine that I offer? We'll have to see how that goes. But my mentality right now is I'm not going to get fearful, but I'm not going to do frivolous spending. So for instance, you know, our daughter's been honest. We used to have a dog, and we lost he died. He got hit by a car a few years ago, and it's very sad. And you know, like about a year ago, I said to my wife, you know what? After this winter, let's get ourselves a dog. So yesterday was the first day of spring, and we've been thinking about getting a dog. And, but you know, this puppy that we're looking at, the kind of dog, it's like, I don't know, $700-800 to buy this dog. And I've just said to my wife, look, I know I said that we can get one in the spring, but my concern is I really don't know where this economy is going. I don't think that we need to be fearful. I don't think that we need to clamp down on all our spending and just like, you know, tighten right up. But on the other hand, I don't think it's the right time for the dog. I think we need to wait a little bit longer and just see how this thing's going to play out. And so in our situation, we're just going to be wise with our spend. We're still going to spend money. We're going to be looking for opportunities and smart things to do with money. But on the other hand, we're just not going to be as casual with purchases like that, because $800, that's real money. You can do a lot with $800. And so we're kind of sitting tight on that just to see where things end up going. Yeah, it's bad for the economy if we're not all spending, because you know, things seize up. Now, the other thing that I am doing is I'm working really hard to buy locally. So I'm not going to go online and buy coffee beans. I'm going to try to get it from my local guy. I'm trying to make sure that the money I have is going into my neighbors' pockets, figuratively speaking, to help them out. You know, so like if George was my buddy and, you know, he's got a hotel down the street, I'd think of ways that I could help him as opposed to sending that money somewhere else. I know a hotel's a little different, but I'm just trying to think of ways that I can keep money local. I'm not trying to deny anybody anything, but I want to help my neighbor down the road, my figurative neighbor, to make sure that they're healthy and they've got as much as they can through this time. So that's that. So I think Omar asked a few minutes ago for me to introduce myself, and maybe I should do that. So I've just George says your wife seems to respond to that kind of thinking than mine. Yeah, you know what? My wife, of the two of us, my wife is more frugal. She's better with money than I am on the day-to-day basis. I feel that I'm better with money on the bigger scheme, like how do you invest, or what types of investments or things should you acquire? How do you take money and turn it into more money through a business? Not that she's bad at that, but she's really good. On a day-to-day basis. She's really good at making a dollar stretch. She's frugal. She grew up in South Africa. They were less consumeristic. Her parents were, they did well, but they weren't wealthy. They weren't frivolous. Like, you just didn't go out and get a pizza. You didn't do those kinds of things. You made everything yourself that you could. You saved as much money. She loves gardening. She grows amazing fruits and vegetables. So my wife Lydia is just fantastic that way. I tend to be more spendy. I'm like, I've got a little bit of money in my pocket. I like nice things, man. Like, oh, I'd like to get a new suit. I'm going to go see the tailor and get a custom suit made. Or I like shiny things. I'm not going to lie. So in these types of situations, though, I'm enough of a grown up to say we've got to be smart in the way that we spend our money. No custom suits, no baubles. Just trying to keep one foot in front of the other with a sober mindset. So that's that. She is a good woman, though. Spinks is off topic. I'm currently setting up a startup and I find myself working. This is not off topic, by the way. We're talking about Corona just because it's the news of the day. I love talking entrepreneurship and business, so I'm glad you're asking this. You're currently setting up a startup and you find yourself working 85 hours a week and you feel like you're missing out on life, but this work ethic feels just right when I see the progress. Thoughts, or how do you manage work-life balance? All right. How do you manage work-life balance? I don't know that work-life balance is a thing. Now, I don't want to give bad advice. I do not agree with this concept that hard work, uh, people talk about, "Oh, I'm so busy." It's like a badge of honor, how busy they are, how exhausted they are. And for me, I just feel like that's not a badge of honor. That's just being an idiot. And often these people that are bragging about how exhausted and how busy, oh, I'm too busy to take a meeting. Okay, whatever. But those people aren't managing their time well. They're spending hours a night watching Netflix. They're spending hours a day on social media, and they can tell you that it's all about their side hustle, et cetera. But often they're just being busy for busy's sake. And so they have this sense of urgency and a harriedness about them because they're so busy. I think that working 85 hours a week is hard, like physically, I think, and mentally it takes its toll. I need some downtime for the creative process to take place. I might do a bunch of research. I might do a lot of hard work, but I need time in the back of my mind for some of the problems that I'm trying to solve to kind of work themselves out. So I don't have a problem with working 85 hours a week. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And I'm not poo-pooing hard work. I love hard work. I think it's honorable to do hard work. But here's what I think. I think, one, you got to do work that's sustainable. Number two, you have to be willing to say no. Sometimes there are things that are just not that important, and it's a season of life. So it sounds like in your instance, you're saying no to other things like a social life. I'm assuming you're not going out drinking. You're hitting the gym and you're trying to get your business going. And I think that's fine. Just keep in the back of your mind that A, it's not sustainable. And the other thing that I would argue, B, try to prioritize, try to focus on the things that matter. Do not waste time on things that are not important. People are going to tell you, oh, can you meet? Can you do this? We want this feature. We want that. You've got to be good at saying, no, I'm staying focused on my goal. You've got to look at what work creates the result. And I think the more you can hone your focus, your energy, your time, your resources on the thing that is going to create results. And this doesn't have to be for a startup. This could be for a hotel. This could be for a digital marketing agency. It can be for a salesman. But I think it's prioritizing and focusing on the things that really create results and then giving it everything you've got. And then bearing in mind that you do need time to rest and relax. They call it recreation, the word recreation. It's the word recreate. We're creative beings. Human beings are creative, whether it's art or making money. We're very creative. We're problem solvers, but you need time to rest so that you can be creative again, so that you can create value, create wealth, and move your business forward. So hopefully that's useful, but that's my take on it. We could follow up more if you ever want to talk more about that, but that's what I try to do. And I agree. George says, if you like your work, it's part of your life. And that's been my experience. The desire, the dream for me was to be able to do work that fit me well. And so doing this kind of work, working from home, I find it very hard to kind of shut off. I work on the weekends. I work at night. I work when I first get up. I'm not always sitting at my desk, like focused on my laptop, but I'm doing my work. I'm thinking about it and chipping away at it. But I do love it, and I feel grateful. And sometimes I need help. I need help taking a break. It's hard to walk away. So I've learned I've got to take vacations where I get out of the house. My wife, even if it's a long weekend, even if it's a day, I need to get away. Otherwise, I'm never really resting because I can't shut off the work piece, even if I'm thinking about it. So I agree with George. If you're doing something that you really love and it's integrated into your life, then it is working is part of your life. I love working. I love it. I don't think about retiring early. For me, it's about freedom. So it's not so much that I love just grinding. I love having the freedom to do the work that I love. A little circular, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. And it's taken me a while to get there. Like that, I wasn't born this way. I had to work hard to get to that place. But I'm grateful for that. And if I can have control over my time and the things that I focus on, the client projects that I take on and doing things like YouTube, et cetera, then I'm happy. And I'll do this as long as I've got the energy for it because I enjoy it. Okay, great question. Hello, Christmas. Christmas says, watch Urban Prepper on YouTube. Okay, I'll have to give it a look. I'm not sure why you're recommending that, but thank you. Maybe you're just listening in on some of my comments earlier. But Liam Jackson, welcome. Hi, Mike. How do you not get distracted being home 24/7? I've never been good at getting motivated to work from home. Yeah, Liam, great question. It's not easy. It is for me, it's been a process of maturation. Working from home, it's on my shoulders. So I don't work for an employer. I've got to keep my clients happy. I have deliverables. I have, value that I have to create, problems I have to solve. So I do have an internal drive. I'm not the most disciplined person in the world. I wasn't the kid in school that would do the homework early. Do your homework first so that you can go do the things you like later. That was my little sister. She was great that way. I had everything else I wanted to do besides the work in front of me. And that's still part of me. But as I've gotten older, I have this internal drive that people are counting on me. They trust me, and I've got to get the work done. As far as focus, because I think that's really the key of the question you're asking. I work really hard to turn off distractions, and I try to devote chunks of time. You can't be focused all day long. So I try to do chunks of time. A really good book is a book by a guy named Cal Newport. It's called Deep Work. Cal Newport, Deep Work. You should look it up on Amazon. It came out a few years ago. Phenomenal. But he makes the argument that any of the great thinkers, any of the great people that have accomplished great things, they were capable of doing this deep work. And essentially they were good at eliminating distractions and going and focusing for long periods of time. Carl Jung, Theodore Roosevelt, all these different people that accomplished great things. He said they were deep workers. And our society, our culture, our technology is designed to not allow us to focus. And so what I do, like I'm not on social media, even the music I listen to, like my Spotify playlist while I'm working is typically like electronica and chill music because I don't even want lyrics. I don't want distracting melodies. I just want background noise so I can focus. So I try to get a lot of stuff off my desk, figuratively and literally, and then spend 2-3 hours of really focused time. Then I come up for air, maybe have some lunch, go for a walk, talk to my wife. I take my time, then I jump back in and I try to chunk again a big chunk of time. And that seems to work for me. But I've got to shut stuff off because you can't get stuff done if you're allowing email notifications and Twitter notifications and that kind of stuff to distract you. Just got to, for me, I have to just kill it. I can't, there's no such thing as multitasking for me. Anyway, hope that's useful, but that's what I do. Daniel says, was there an age when you think you started to be more responsible? When do you think you have matured? Asking as a freshly 23 years old. Fantastic question. I was talking actually last night to my eldest child, who's my son. I have two sons and a daughter, and he's just a few years older than you, Daniel. And we were talking about that. Like, for me, I think that the shift happened when it started to happen. It didn't happen all at once, but the process, I would say, started when we had our first child. I just all of a sudden had this sense of there's this little, tiny brown-eyed being that's defenseless and innocent. And if I don't get my act together, that little human doesn't eat. And that there was an external, you know, pressure on me to make sure I was able to take care of my son. That's where it started. And but it's been a long process. And I think so that if you think of like steps where you kind of launch up, so having a family was the first launch for me of being really responsible. I was always driven. Like I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to be successful, make money. So there was that. But the discipline part. The second was, I used to own a design agency. I had an agency for 15 years. And owning that business, there were a lot of times before owning the business where I might do a job for a year or two, be unhappy. I'd quit and get another job. I had no trouble getting jobs. So I'd leave after a year or two. Eventually I realized like I want to be in business for myself. I had this agency. But times would get tough and I would find myself in a position where it's like I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted out. But I had all these employees that relied on me. I had clients. I mean, you can't just walk away when you own a business with employees. It just doesn't work that way. And so for me, that was like another level where I kind of leveled up responsibility wise, was just learning to go past my own, weaknesses and to push through the way I felt just to get the work done, to be responsible. So those are kind of two areas where I felt like I leveled up. And then lastly, the last 3 years I've been consulting, working on my own. I don't know that I've leveled up. I just feel like it's been more like the culmination of a lot of that stuff. So anyway, I feel like I'm going a little long on that answer, but I think it's been a process. And I think external events that have forced me to push past what I thought I was capable of are what have helped me to mature. I think, it's struggle, it's strain, it's pressure, these hardships. These are the things that cause us to grow. And I just don't think that you grow without them. Maybe you grow a little bit, but you really grow. You get depth and strength when you take on responsibilities, when you're faced with hardships. This is what brings out the best in us and helps us to become better people, ideally. So that's that. Anyway, this is Deep Thoughts with Mike. Hey, look at that. So there's Josh Gastin on the live stream. That's my son that I was just talking about. What's going on, buddy? So here's some live show notes. Yes, Deep Work by Cal Newport. Thank you for posting it. That's definitely the book. It's fantastic, easy read, and very challenging. So I would encourage you. I think you get a lot out of it. Wish Waiter, welcome. An advanced question. By the way, Pi ends with 0. I'm so glad you're here. Good to see you. So Wish Waiter says, an advanced question, how to focus on projects on the computer while a Cocker Spaniel puppy is constantly asking for attention. Let me tell you something. So we used to have a Border Collie. It's this lovely dog, beautiful, beautiful boy, so smart. But if you know anything about Border Collies, they're like totally latched on to their owners. And he was really my wife's dog, but she was in South Africa visiting family for 6 weeks. So I was home in America working, just me and the Border Collie. His name was Charlie. And she was away because usually he'd follow her around. She's gardening, and they love, Border Collies have so much energy. They want to work. You got to intellectually challenge and stimulate them and physically work them. So here I am trying to work. I've got client work, etc. And Charlie was just like, he wanted my attention all the time. And I have to say, Wish Waiter, I did not figure that out. I felt like I was jumping up, letting him outside, jumping back down, jumping up. We'd take walks. I felt like he just distracted the heck out of me. And when my wife came home, I was so grateful. Now I worked hard, but like it took a long time. Now eventually he would lie down with me. Like if I gave him enough attention, he'd just lie down and I'd get the work done. But this guy, and he was smart. He figured out how to work the angles. He figured out how to manipulate me to get what he wanted. It's like even trying to have a client call was difficult. He wouldn't bark, but he just was insistent for my attention. And I was a sucker. I didn't know how to tell him no. So I don't have an answer for you. We need a pet psychologist on the stream to help answer that question. So Piens with Zero says, hey, Mike, you spoke about prospecting. Is that just a part of pipeline management, or is it unrelated to the first part of the pipeline and can happen independently? I think people use that term generically. I think you can, in a process, define a certain part of that process as prospecting, meaning I'm trying to find possible clients, possible customers. And so I'm going through the prospecting process. I'm kind of digging through all the potentials to try to find, ones that we think will be good fit for the business. So to me, if you're going to be technical about it, and don't quote me on this, I would define prospecting as that. And we're not talking about marketing, by the way. So I'm not talking about funnel management. To me, prospecting is an active thing that a salesperson does. So they're doing their research, they're trying to find customers that they can reach out to. They're prospecting, they're saying, hey, what about this business? What about that person? It's all that information gathering and trying to identify prospects, people that you can sell to. Now, people do use it more generically, meaning they just refer to I'm just prospecting, and people think that just means selling. But it's really that early process, and it's not a marketing function. So this is not, let's say in marketing, you've got an inbound marketing campaign, you're getting leads off of a white paper that you've published on your website, and then your marketing team is nurturing that lead. Maybe they're sending some emails, maybe there's something that comes in the mail to help kind of soften them up and get them ready for sales. That's not prospecting. That's marketing, that's inbound marketing. Prospecting is the early part of the sales process where the salespeople are out there looking for leads. They're looking for prospects that they can cold call. That's essentially what it is. And there might even be some overlap. You could call some cold calling as part of prospecting. Typically, sales organizations will refer to, like, you make your phone calls, you got to make 100 calls a day, which is a lot. And, and you're hoping to get 20 prospects. So you've kind of found a prospect when someone's like, yeah, I'll set up a meeting. So that's that prospecting. You're trying to get that cold, you're trying to identify them and get that initial cold contact. That's not technical, but that's how I tend to view it. So hopefully that maybe helps a little bit. Feel free to ask follow-up questions. Daniel, thank you. You as well. Not a problem. Franz, welcome to the live stream. Glad to have you along. Greetings from Norway. Well, thank you, Franz. I hope everything's going well for you, and greetings from upstate New York. What are your thoughts on marketing for e-commerce these days? Asking since a lot of people, especially here, are now ordering a lot more products online. I have general thoughts. Franz, feel free to be more specific in your question. Like if you want me to be a little bit more specific, I think that e-commerce marketing for e-commerce. So so maybe you're asking like offering a service where you're helping e-commerce people market. I was talking to a guy that I use a local guy that I use for some of my clients for SEO and digital marketing. And he's expecting his business to grow. He's saying with everybody being online, he's expecting to see significant growth because his clients, his customers are going to need a lot more help from him. And I think he's expecting to pick up some new customers in the process as well. So I think you're right. I think a lot's moving online. I've been thinking about it. It's like how, not offering a marketing service, but I've been thinking about, I kind of would like to offer a digital product. I've been thinking about either doing maybe a weekly newsletter, like something really inexpensive that helps people grow their business, share some marketing and revenue generation tips, that type of thing, entrepreneurial tips for folks that are either small business owners or people that want to get into business. So I've been thinking about what online products and services can I offer that would create value and help, you guys, my audience, benefit. I think we're all kicking around e-commerce, but for me, it has nothing to do with coronavirus. It's more just I've wanted to do that for a long time, and I've got an audience all over the world, and it's like, how do I serve that audience in ways that are good for both of us to create value for them and have a little bit of benefit as well. So yeah, let me know if you've got more specific, because I'd like to answer that maybe better if I can, but I'm just not sure exactly what you're asking. Let's see. Yeah, somebody said Beats to Think on Spotify is a good one for that. George, thank you. I'll look that one up. I've got a handful of these great playlists, and Beats to Think, I may have listened to that one before. It sounds familiar, but I'll check it out. Pions with Zero says, Mike, in growing, do you like Nietzsche's concept of camel, lion, child? So I do not know Nietzsche's concept of camel, lion, child. I mean, I know some of Nietzsche's thinking a little bit. I mean, I'm not an expert. I've dabbled in philosophy a little bit, so I know a little bit about Nietzsche and some of those fellows. But no, I'd be curious to know what that is. Please share. I'd like to learn more. In fact, I'm going to make a note over here as we're chatting because I'm going to look that up. And of course, the iPad wants a Face ID. I'm not going to give it to it. Just bear with me. Nietzsche. What do we got? Camel, lion, child? Never heard of it. You're great, Pi. You always hit me with this stuff that's like on another level. And I like that because that's how we learn. I like to be stretched a little bit. Yeah, Wish Waiter. That does sound like a Border Collie, doesn't it? They're lovely dogs. I would love to get another Border Collie, but there's so much work, and we've got this 5-acre property, and we have one of these invisible fences. He's so smart. Whenever he would see people, he was just crazy to see them, and he broke through the invisible fence and got hit by a car. It was heartbreaking. So I would love to get another one, but I think we want a dog that's a little bit more chilled out, just because it was just so sad to lose Charlie. They're great dogs. There really is no other dog like a Border Collie, Australian Shepherd. Those breeds are really cool. Let's see. Spinks notes on the topic of sales. Great book, Lost Art of Closing by Anthony Inarino. Yeah, it's a good book. George, we need a new website for our hotel. Any ideas for that? What to focus on? That's such a broad question, George. I mean, absolutely. There's a bunch of questions. Who's your target market? Why are they looking for a hotel? Because that all affects the branding and the messaging. How do people like to book? There's just so much to ask to even know. But I would imagine you've got some local people that can help you through that. I guess my only piece of advice there would be, don't just hire a web design. Don't just hire like a programmer or a web designer. Nothing wrong with those people. They're great. You need good ones. But hire somebody that's asking the kinds of marketing questions. So you don't just want someone to build a site or knock out a good looking. I don't care if it looks good or not. It should look good. The real question for me is, what problem does the site solve? What purpose does it fulfill? Why do you want, what is the site supposed to do for you? If it's like an employee, why are you hiring this person? What value do you want them to create? So get someone that can help you think through that process to make sure that whatever money you spend on the site, it's helping you make money in very specific ways. You want to go into it understanding that, and then use that decision, like this is its purpose, to evaluate all the work. If somebody wants to put this big, beautiful image, but that image doesn't help deliver the end product, end goal, then say, hey, nice image, but I don't know how this helps us book more sales. So just, be aggressive and adamant that the site has to work for you. It has to deliver return on investment, and get somebody that understands that to help you build a site that can do just that. So that's a little bit of my advice there. NWA Saba, welcome. I'm glad to see you, man. I was hoping you'd make it today. Glad to see you drop in. Hope everything's going well. You're not too late. You were just chit-chatting. Yeah, so Pions with Zero says this camel, lion, child thing comes from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I can never say that correctly. Zarathustra, whatever. It's such a fantastic title for a piece. I wanted to read it. I've never read it. As I said, I know a little bit about Nietzsche, but I'm not an expert. I'll check it out though. Omar, he's had problems with the internet since the shutdown, and I think it's going to get worse. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I've been wondering. I think this time, at least the audio and some of that stuff we've got sorted out. So hopefully everything sounds good. If you are having an issue, let me know. I'm not sure that everybody else is having, but let me know. So Pi says, it sounds like Nietzsche said, a person truly matures through 3 key phases. First, he's a camel, loves a burden, and lives for hard work. However, is really dead as a person. Then it's a lion who is rebellious and cannot follow others. I think I've been through those 2 phases. And then I'm going to jump down. Finally, on this foundation, a person becomes a child, saying, Yes, and not concerning oneself with the past, but it can only work on the foundation of work, self-reliance. Yeah, you've gotta build. I don't know much about Nietzsche, but you have to build a base, a foundation of competency, of agency, of potency, this ability to do things, and not just to be active and hardworking, but to be good at them. I think for folks, we get a sense of meaning and purpose and value when we know that we're capable of creating value somehow. We don't have to be good at everything, but I think the part of the project of life, obviously, we want to find fulfillment. What is the purpose of life? Can I find fulfillment? Can I find meaning? That gets into metaphysical and kind of transcendental levels, but there is an element of capability, of competence. Jordan Peterson talks about this. Again, I'm not an expert on Peterson either. I haven't read a lot of his work, but he's an advocate for young men in particular. Spend some time developing competence, and I think he's 100% right. It's been the experience for me that competence creates confidence. It creates the ability to do, and a sense of self worth, and it's just all positive things. And you're bringing something to the table. You're making the world better for other people. When you're competent at something, it's not just about you, it's what you bring for others. I mean, that gets into Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces. The hero accepts the call to action, and through that whole journey becomes transformed and brings a boon, something special back to the community. The hero becomes reborn and transformed and better for it. And I think we're all in that process of being dismembered and reborn through our work and our gaining of competence. But that's just me. Let's see what we got here. As NWA, you say the net is so poor, I can't see the stream. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, and regarding Wishwater, regarding Charlie, thank you. They are brilliant dogs, and Aussies are only one slightly notch down on the crazy style. Lovely dogs too. Yeah, same here. We're looking at getting maybe a golden retriever, and so we'll see how that goes. But I think they're a little bit more chill. They're relatively intelligent, but they're easygoing, and they're pretty popular, very trendy right now. So I'm kind of like, I don't want a trendy dog, but on the other hand, we just want a little buddy to run around the house and have some fun with. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe in a couple months, I get a better sense of how the world is going. Eddie Duncan, Ed 8855 Duncan. Hi, hey buddy, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. And then Piance with Zero says so that wasn't a spam post. I'm glad you shared the information. That's very helpful. It is a cool concept. Also wrote a book of comments of Nietzsche. Osho wrote a book of comments of Nietzsche. Maybe just look on that. Could do that. And audio is perfect this time. Hello, Pauline. Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I spent a little time. We had dinner with the family, or I should say Sunday lunch. So before all that, I tried to get everything set up. I tried a different way of routing some of the wires just to make sure that I didn't mess it up. The other thing I did, when I do the live stream, my laptop, it's a MacBook, 16-inch MacBook, it starts to get hot. So the fans kick on. So I've kind of pushed it off to the side, but I added a little bit of a noise gate. Hopefully that's not affecting things. The tough thing with the software, there's no way to test the stream audio for yourself. Like I can see the video, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I use OBS, which is an open source broadcasting piece of software. There's no way for me to test the audio to see the quality. So I'm just kind of, you do it and you just like hope that it's okay and ask everybody. So thank you for letting me know. And Pauline, welcome. So let's see. How long do you have to prepare on one live stream? Pi, I don't really spend any time preparing content. I mean, I think about it a little bit. It takes me probably 15 minutes to set it up on YouTube and to throw a thumbnail, as a holding place. And then as far as setting up the gear, the first time took me hours. It took me like half a day. It probably took me a full day of researching. Then I had to run around and get some gear to make it work, to make things stream properly. I mean, I was just going nuts. I probably put a full 8 hours into figuring it all out. And now I could probably be ready in 20 minutes. I just make sure everything's plugged in properly. I changed some settings on the camera. For instance, I turn off the audio on the camera so that the audio source can come from my mic here, etc. But it's pretty straightforward now. I rearranged my desk a little bit, but 20 minutes and I'm good to go, which isn't too bad. The only problem is if I leave it to the last minute and there is an issue, because not everything works perfectly, then I'm breaking a sweat. You guys are all waiting and I'm stressed out like, okay, I've got a problem. So that's why I did it early, just to make sure. Hey, you got to go. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us this time, Pi. It was great to see you. All right, let's see. Daniel P., welcome, my friend. Nice stream. Thoughts on the importance of digital assets like domains as a store of value? Oh, that's an interesting question. Do you remember the days, and Daniel, I have no idea how old you are, but I'm a pre-internet guy in the sense that when I was born in 1967, I graduated high school in 1984. So I kind of was there when it all happened. And I remember the early days of, like phone freakers, people that would hack phone systems with audio, like analog tones and stuff. I was on, electronic bulletin boards before there was an internet. In fact, I remember hanging out with these college guys that were, we even had an email system. These were like, monochrome screens, but we had an intranet at one of my companies in the mid to late 80s, and we had email, which was kind of cool. You couldn't go outside the company with it, but they were pretty technologically advanced, this little company. And so I remember like domains, people domain squatting. And I remember back in the day, like I realized I was working at a university in South Africa, so I had university access to like FTP and, bulletin boards and Usenet and all that stuff. And I thought I should grab some of these domains like Burger King and McDonald's. They hadn't grabbed them yet. I didn't do it, and I'm kind of glad. Like, I'm not trying to make money by scamming a couple big names. But to answer your question, yeah, I think these could be digital assets. I think the thing with a domain, if you're just grabbing it to hopefully sell it to someone later, I mean, I guess that's legitimate. To me, that's kind of rent seeking. It's not ideal. But if you're grabbing them thinking, I can turn these into businesses down the road, why not? The only issue there is, you've got some work to do. It's not just the domain is a store of value, but you've got to turn it into a viable business. Am I against it? Absolutely not. But yeah. And you said, you're not as interested in owned brands. I mean, they've made that more difficult to do these days. It's not the wild, wild west legally anymore. But again, essentially at this point, you're buying things up and paying every month to store them, and you're just hoping somebody wants it. It's just, to me, that business model, that's come and gone. I don't know that that's a great opportunity. I think there's easier ways to make more money these days. There are better ways to invest your cash. If you're going to invest your cash into sitting on a ton of domains, it can be pretty expensive, just in the hopes that somebody wants to buy it from you. And let's say it takes 5-10 years to sell one of those domains. What could you have gotten for a few $100 of registering and paying for those domains? Could you have turned that money into something more? I don't know. But I don't know enough about that business, but it seems to me that's like a low margin business. You have to have a lot of volume, and you just have to, it's kind of a luck thing. You have to have enough and hope that you're going to strike it rich with one of them. So yeah, so I'm not so sure on that. Let's see. I was just looking, I got a text. I was seeing if one of you guys were hitting me up on my phone, but that's not it. So let me take a look here. Wishwater says, George says, when the internet gets worse, my children will make life hell on earth. Yeah, I'm guessing you've got younger kids. I think it's harder. We're a homeschool family. So my wife and I, when we got married, decided we wanted to try to do that. She stayed home with the kids. I didn't always work from home, although I have throughout my career at times. But we're kind of used to the kids around. Now we're empty nesters. I mean, our kids are all adults. They've come back because of this whole crisis, a couple of them. But otherwise, we did have the kids at home, and it does take a lot of work. My wife was saying she feels sorry for a lot of the moms right now stuck at home with their kids that just aren't used to it, because it is a lot of work, and they're finding out the hard way that like homeschooling and being home with your kids, not easy. We loved it. I mean, we really loved it. We felt it was a blessing to be able to have the kids home, and the kids, I think, benefited from it, but it was work. So what do we got here? Wishwater says, if you like a high intelligent dog breed without the disruptive nature, consider a Papillon. Is it a papillon? It means butterfly, I think, doesn't it? I mean, it's papillon in English, but I think it's a papillon. It's the only tiny breed in the top 10 for intelligence, and like collies, they're often used in agility. That's good. Those are good dogs. I knew someone with one. There's a beautiful dog. We want something a little bigger though. I think those are pretty small dogs if I remember correctly, but I didn't remember that they were that smart. Thank you. George is asking what camera am I using? I'm using a Canon 80D, a Canon 80D. It's a DSLR that I use to shoot all my YouTube videos. To make it work as a streaming camera, I have to kind of turn it to manual focus. So I've got to make sure that I'm within the range of focus before I set it up. And I also had to invest in something called CamLink, which is a little kind of dongle that you use streaming the HDMI out of the camera so that it can allow it to stream. But I'm using a Canon 80D. If you're curious, what do you think of the quality? Is it decent? Curious to know. Ron says, think you skipped my comment above. About 10 comments up. I'll just repeat it here. All right. Thanks for the answer, Mike. Oh, sorry, man. Was thinking specifically now with the virus ruling, more and more people are pumping out ads, etc. How to compete within a specific industry. So I think we're going back to, forgive me, Franz, I apologize. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. I think what we're talking about is digital thoughts on marketing for e-commerce these days. Okay. So here's the thing. I can't, sorry for skipping. I can't answer specifically because I think each instance is unique, but here is what I think. I think this is going to stay the same after coronavirus. I think digital marketing has been, even before the virus, been getting more and more complex, more and more competitive. Gone, and I think you know this, we all know this, the days are gone where you could get cheap YouTube ads, cheap Facebook ads. You know, you buy Facebook ads cheap, you drive business and it's great, you know, and you're just selling and rocking and rolling. These social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, also owned by Facebook, Twitter, it's getting harder and harder to get results. I think the platforms themselves are making it harder and harder. I also think that people are becoming more and more used to these ads and then ignoring them. They're being overwhelmed, as you're saying, by lots of ads. But I think the strategy has to change a little bit. I think ultimately what we want is I'm a big proponent of building your own database, meaning it's one thing to advertise online. You know, hey, I'm running ads, I'm trying to sell something. And everybody's thing is different, so each case is different. But I'm a big proponent of use your online top of funnel activities to convert that prospect into your database. Get them into your email database, capture their information so that, one, you own them. I don't mean in a disrespectful way, but you own that data, you own that information. And two, you can begin the process of building a relationship with them, begin a conversation with them so that you can ultimately convert them and you can sell to them throughout the lifetime of that relationship. So I think the challenge is to broaden the thinking around how digital marketing is executed and conducted, broaden it into things like content strategy, broaden it into, you know, a mix that allows you that top of funnel volume that converts into your database. And once you've got them in your database, you know, respect them. Don't just like bury them with sales pitches, but try to build a relationship. Marketing is about building a relationship and having a relationship with a customer and meeting their needs and creating value for them, and at the same time generating wealth for you or your clients. So for me, it's really, this has been going on for a while, and I think marketers, digital marketers, have to get more sophisticated. There are too many digital marketers out there, big and small, that they just do the basics. We're going to write a 500-word blog post for you. It's just keyword stuffing. There's no content. It's just fluff. We're going to do some SEO optimization, which is just a little bit of BS of meta tag work and meta description work. Okay, great. And then we're going to run ads. You know, we need $20,000 so we can run some Google AdWords and some YouTube and whatnot. Those are fine. Each one of those things are fine in and of themselves, but there's no overarching strategy saying we need to capture and own the relationship with this customer. So for me, the big challenge and the big opportunity is to get those relationships off of social media, get them off of the internet, get them off of the website and into your database so that you can start getting in their email box and start communicating with them in ways that are meaningful. And then you can really see amazing sales. You got companies like Zappos, they really know how to communicate with their customers. They build a relationship. It's enjoyable. It's fun. People love buying shoes from them. Why? Because it's a relationship. They're not selling unique shoes. You can buy the same shoes that Zappos is selling down the street at your local shoe warehouse, let's say, DSW Shoes. But it's so much fun and so convenient and so enjoyable to work with Zappos that you keep coming back. And so my argument is not to be like Zappos, but to capture that information, open this dialogue and own it so that you can then have a similar experience. Your customer can have a similar experience with you, love the relationship, and buy from you. So that's kind of my little rant and rave on digital marketing. Franz, hopefully that is helpful to you. Daniel, mostly focused on generic domains. Okay, yeah, we talked about that. Thank you, you got it. Wishwater says, on the topic of domain names, any tips on memorable branding? Does branding start with a memorable domain name? I would say no. I would not say that branding starts with a memorable domain name. I think there are different ways to think about this, I guess. You like, if you're anywhere in the world, most people know DHL. Is it DHL or UPS, right? The package delivery companies. They're acronyms. DHL doesn't mean anything to most people. It's just 3 letters. UPS doesn't really mean anything. It's just 3 letters. Yet their marks and their services and even their brand, they're globally known. If you live in Germany or Europe, you know DHL. You probably know UPS too. You're in America, you know UPS. And so you could argue, well, those are terrible names. Like, acronyms are terrible names. They don't mean anything. They're just letters. Sometimes it's letters and numbers. But on the other hand, these are companies that have had generations and millions, if not billions of dollars that they've been able to put into their brand. And you see them all the time. They're driving down the street. They've got colors and trucks and drivers. You're interacting. So I think that you don't have to have a good name to have a powerful brand. That's technically speaking. But if you have a bad name, you got to have a lot of money to overcome that. IBM is another example, another acronym. What does IBM mean? Who knows? But we all know. So what you want to do, I think, is ideally every element of the brand, whether it's the typography, the name, the colors, the messaging, tagline, etc. Every element of your brand should work together to communicate the core promise that your company, your offering, your product is giving the world. If there's a promise, your brand, I like to say, it's not the only thing, so people get wound up about this. You're doing it wrong, but to think about it in general terms, your brand is a promise. And you want a name. It doesn't have to explicitly, like, if your promise is inexpensive shoes, your name doesn't have to be cheap shoes. I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. You can do this in creative and subtle ways, but everything about your company should communicate to the market that we're promising you inexpensive shoes. Not everybody wants inexpensive shoes. That's fine, but the people that do should be able to determine and understand from your name, your branding, your visual cues, the messaging, etc., what your company's all about. So I would encourage you, rather than worry about the domain, although that's important, think about what promise are you making the market, and then make your decisions based on that. So hopefully that helps. Let's see, Franz, thanks a lot for the answer, Mike. Good to hear your perspective, especially the relationship with the customer part. Hard to find this kind of quality by browsing the web. No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for asking. And thank you. I apologize you had to, but thank you for being persistent, making sure that I did not miss your excellent question. Cheese Curdler. Well, Cheese Curdler, welcome to the live stream. Glad to have you along. You wouldn't happen to be in Wisconsin right now, would you? Anyway, should I hire a social media marketing agency or try to take this on myself for my online business? Is that a yes or no? I mean, how do you answer that? I don't know enough about your background, your skills. I don't know how much time you have. Let's think of it this way. Let's say that you're actually good at social media marketing. Hey, Franz, take it easy. We'll see you later. Thank you for joining us. Sorry you have to go, but I'm glad you made it, and hope to see you again sometime. So let's say that you're actually good at social media. Let's say you're not a genius, but you're decent at it. Like, yeah, I could do that. But let's say that there's only so many hours in the day, like you're a human being like the rest of us, and there are things that you need to be doing to make the business successful. So if social media is the most important thing to make your business successful, then I'd say, hey, you should do it, meaning you're good at it, assuming you're good at it. Like, why would you hand off the most important thing, your success, to someone else in the startup phase? But I would sit down and try to figure out what is that thing that I have to do to make this business successful. And then I'd say, what are the things that are important, but I could get some help on, and what are they worth to me? Uh, so the first thing I would do is determine what's the most important thing for you to be doing, and if it's not social media, then free yourself up to focus on that most important thing. The second thing I would do is be very careful, though, bringing in a digital marketing firm. I'm not against them, but I would make sure that they're held accountable. You don't want them saying, "Yeah, give us $2,400 a month, and we'll do some SEO, and we'll do this and that." I would look for KPIs. I'd look for metrics. I'd want to know from them, like, if I'm going to pay you this money, what are you guaranteeing me? And they're going to get nervous. When they hear guarantee, they're going to get nervous. But I think that's a good place to start. Tell them, I need sales. So I don't just want to give you money. I want you to build a strategy for me that's going to drive sales. What does that funnel look like? And what steps are you going to take? How are we going to convert people? What's the rate that you are expecting to see? I would not give them money and let them just do the kind of social media stuff that they're doing for everybody else, just generic template-based BS. I'm sorry, it's just a waste of money. I'd hold their feet to the fire and say, I'm hiring you because I need 20 sales a week. And here's how I think that social media can fit into that. I want you to put a plan together for me, and then I'll be glad to pay you your fees. But then I'm going to measure every month, every week, whatever, how you're doing. And if you're not doing, then what the part ways. But I would hold them accountable to a real deliverable. Don't let them get away with saying we'll increase engagement. You cannot cash checks on engagement. Now, engagement's part of it. You've got to get engagement. But I think part of that discussion with them has to be, you're going to get me engagement, but how do we convert? How are you going to help me convert engagement into customers? I mean, people don't want to talk about this. And I think it's the most important piece that's missing from most digital marketing agency relationships. They're not committing to creating that level of value, but they're capable of it. And you need to push to make sure you're getting that kind of value. Then you can say to yourself, look, I don't mind spending $2,400, $3,600 a month because they help me close $20, $30, $40,000 in business. Well, that's fair. Then you can say, I'll spend even more. Why not? So that's the discussion I would have. I'd figure out what my most important thing is. If it's not social media, then I would bring in a social media firm and I'd hold their feet to the fire like nobody's business, because that's just the kind of guy I am. So hopefully that helps. So guys, I'm happy to keep going. We're in it now about an hour. It looks like the comments, now it may have just stalled on my end. I don't know, but it looks like the comments have kind of stopped. So I'm not sure if you guys are getting tired or not. You want to keep going? Be happy to keep going. Or we can wrap it up if you'd like. But these are good discussions. You got lots of questions. Unfortunately, I've got at least a few answers. I'd love to, I say unfortunately just tongue in cheek, but Abordes. Hi, Mike. Found your channel via the infamous Tesla video. Yes, that video is something. Really like how genuine you are, your insights and wisdom. Follow-up question. Go for it. Welcome, by the way, to the stream, and thank you for joining. Would love to hear your question. And I guess I've got a question for you guys in a second here. Wishwater has to head off. Thanks, man. I'm glad you joined us. I appreciate it, and all the best. Love to see you around again sometime. Appreciate your comments and thoughts. So Abordes said he had a question. I'll ask you guys a question. I mentioned earlier, and I hate even bringing this up because I feel like I'm trying to. Oh, here's Abordes' question. This regards to media sensationalism. I'm concerned how long it took people to wake up to the threat of COVID. Yeah, I'm waiting for the question though, so I'm curious to see where you're going to go with this. But yes, I love the media is like one of my favorite whipping boys, as it were. Historically, the media should play a critical role in that society in general trusts and listens to information presented by media. Yeah, I would agree with that so far, where you're going. So while he's queuing up his question, I have a question for you guys. I mentioned earlier, like I'm thinking about, you know, e-commerce myself, and I know there's just two, you know, just there's just like 12 people on the stream right now, so this isn't like a statistically significant sample. What are your thoughts on email, paid email subscriptions? Do you guys, any of you do that? Like, there's like I subscribe to a couple emails. They're like 3 or 5. I think they're $5, $5 a month. Usually get like a weekly email. They're pretty good. One guy's an indie consultant that has some great insights. I just appreciate. He kind of talks about the consulting world. But I'm just curious, like, do you guys have those kinds of products? Do you enjoy them? I've just been thinking about how can I create extra value, and I've been thinking about putting out maybe, you know, like an inexpensive $5 a month email newsletter on a weekly basis. So I was just curious. Love to know what you guys think in the comments. All right, so let's see here. So back to Aborte's. So regards to media sensationalism, concern how long it took for people to wake up to the threat of COVID. Historically, the media should play a critical role in that society. Generally trusts and listens to information presented by the media. If we disregard media sources and don't trust them, in some sense, we are back in the Middle Ages in that we are all in walled gardens of information, i.e. truth disseminates slower through the human network. Curious, any thoughts on solutions here? You know, the issue I have, I mean, it's a great question. I feel like there's an issue of integrity. People think of integrity as being good or bad. I like to think of the model of integrity around more from an engineering perspective. Like if you drive over a bridge, you believe like if everything's sound and put well together, there's no cracks or fractures, it has structural integrity, and you trust it. Because to me, when something has integrity on that level, when it's true, it doesn't have to be good or bad. I mean, but like when someone keeps their word, they have integrity. If they promise I'll be there at 6 a.m. to pick you up and they show up at 6, then you go, okay, great. That person has integrity. I trust them when they say something. I feel like the problem is that, you know, there has been this implicit agreement between the population and the media that the media's job is to tell us the truth and to keep us informed. Now, I think something's happened where the media's maybe changed its position, that it's not so much to keep us informed, but it's to help create a better future. So rather than just disseminating information and making sure that we're well informed so that we can make good decisions, which you need in a vibrant democracy. People need information to make good decisions in a democracy. It seems that the media's agenda is more about progressing society forward. So on some level, they and others are deciding what society should look like in the future. And then they're kind of presenting information in light of that vision for the future. So if there's some social issue that the media thinks is critical, the news stories are going to be very slanted in favor of those. Anybody that questions that is going to be portrayed as bad. And so you kind of get this sense in the general public that the media has betrayed its promise to us. It promised that it was going to give us good information and allow us to make the decisions. And what's really seemingly happening on the right and the left, I'm not picking a side here, the media's picked a side, it's decided what future and vision it has for the future, and then is giving us information to push us in that direction. So now I don't feel like I can trust you. Tell me the truth. I feel like I always have to be checking. And on another level, I think the lines have blurred between true journalism and entertainment. So you've got like, you've got these shows like the Colbert Report, who are, they're funny. What's the one with Trevor Noah? It's gone through Jon Stewart, Trevor Noah, I forget, the Daily Report, et cetera, where they're presenting news, but they're really presenting entertainment and comedy, and they're presenting one perspective. And yeah, they take the mickey out of people, but clearly there's an agenda, there's a side to the whole thing. So what I'm trying to say is not that they're evil, not that they've done like terrible, terrible things, but that they're out of integrity with the promise that they've made to us historically. So then you find that people don't trust that source. If you don't tell me the truth, if you're my employee and you don't come in on time, you're always late, then I just don't trust you. In other areas, you're just not a person I can depend on. And if you worked in my business, I'd talk to you. And if you didn't fix it, I'd let you go. Because I only want to work with people I trust. I only want to work with people that I can put my weight on and trust that they're going to be dependable. And so all that to say, I think there are other ways that information gets disseminated, but it has gotten quite messy. And I don't have an answer. I think the answer for me isn't other systems. It's really a question, which is it possible to bring the media, the journalism, the expectations both of the public and the willingness of those that editorialize, is it possible to have a conversation saying we don't want opinions, we want information? Is there a way to hold them accountable for information? I don't think it's easy. One of the things that I like about the free market is that these institutions can be challenged by some little YouTuber. Not that I'm that guy, but the little YouTubers pop up and they actually present better information often than the news sources. The news sources cry foul. Oh, you're destroying a tradition of journalism. But at the end of the day, I think often it's creating healthy competition. The problem is it shouldn't be regulated. It's free speech, but I don't know that the consumer is savvy enough to navigate. And so you get a lot of disinformation, you get a lot of confusion, lies, propaganda, etc. All I can tell you is it's a mess. And on the other hand, it's kind of a beautiful mess. Like I wouldn't be able to live stream if it weren't for the technology advances that allow people to do stuff like this. I wouldn't be able to share my views and my perspective if not for that. So it's kind of crazy. All right, let me just jump back in here. Folks are saying they don't use email. You don't use it. Georgie likes audio. It's good to know. I mean, I've done a podcast for a while. I've kind of I slowed down on the podcast. It's called The Currency. It's on Apple, Spotify, etc. So I mean, I've got an audio there, but just a question. So that's good to know. You would love a Udemy course from me. Marketing 101. See, now that's the other thing. I've thought about doing like online courses. So that's why I've kind of kicked back and forth. Should I do more online courses? Maybe something inexpensive, like, I don't know, like $80, $79, not outrageous, or maybe something higher end, or should I do like an email on a regular basis? I'm just kind of exploring right now. So that's really helpful for me to hear back from you that that's the kind of thing you like. Lars Christian says, hello from Germany. Hello, Lars. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Glad to see you here. Neon Banana, how you doing, man? I've seen you in the comments in some of my videos as well. Love it. If you're thinking about it and you'd feel good doing it, then do it. Yeah, now see, that's a good point. My thing is, I just don't want to do an email and have like, my mom and wife be my only subscribers. I'm just doing a little informal market research right now, quite frankly, but thank you for the encouragement. Cheese Curler, given the current economy, should I launch my new product now or wait till things pick back up? Don't want to waste the budget and not get the return that has been planned. Thanks for the insight. I don't know. I don't know enough about your, and you say later on, don't become a fake guru. I promise you I will not become a fake guru. I won't have like a Lamborghini behind me and talk about knowledge and all the books I read. I do read a lot of books, but I'll try not to become one of those guys that's just hustling you for a few grand and then give you some crappy course. It gives everything a bad name. That's one of the reasons I'm almost like, I don't even know if I want to go this route. But on the other hand, I really love sharing what I know, and I want to help other people. I want to help folks, grow their businesses. I want to help people launch into businesses. There's something amazing about having control over your own life, getting up every day and saying, I've got to make the magic happen, closing deals, winning clients, and creating wealth and value for the world around you. I think entrepreneurship's awesome. And I just want to look at other ways that I can help folks do that in a way that's fair financially for them and that, I can feed my family at the same time. So I got distracted though. Where was I? You were saying, given the current economy, I don't know enough about your product, Cheese Curdler, and I guess the only question I have is, are there things you can be doing now so that if and when the economy, we get out of this thing, you're ready to go guns a-blazing? My opinion is people are still going to do business. There's certain things, like if you're opening a bar or a hotel right now, talk to George about this, but if you're opening a bar right now, I mean, forget it. This is just, you got to wait. You just have to wait. But there are businesses busy conducting and transacting, doing business right now, the economy is not going to completely come to a standstill. And there are always ways to make money, especially in times of confusion and change and turmoil. There are ways to make money. And I don't mean take advantage of it, but I'm just saying you have to look and be thoughtful and creative. And so I would say go for it. I mean, I think what you want to do is prove to yourself, is there a way to test the business? Can you do a little bit of a test to see, to prove to yourself that this works? Is there a way to dip your toe in the water without going all out? I love that concept. If you can prove to yourself that you've figured out how to sell whatever this product or service is, then I'd start investing more and more money into it. But to do like a big launch, I don't know again what you're doing. To invest a lot of money and just kind of hope that one big launch is going to make it work, that I think is very risky. Even in good times, I wouldn't do that. I'd look for ways to run prototypes, to do tests, and to prove to yourself that this thing's got legs. And once you're more confident and you understand what works and what doesn't, then I'd start throwing real money at it. So hopefully that's useful to you. Abort is great. Cheers for the thoughts. So given the problem statement of media equals untrustworthy, what are your reflections on best tools, techniques for one to stay well informed? Here's the thing. I don't spend a lot of time consuming media. Here's what I've found. I've found that I learn what I need to learn without paying attention to the media. I don't run news channels 24/7. I'm not reading stuff all the time. So I'll tell you what I subscribe to. I don't even read it every day. I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal digital edition. It's expensive. I do that more to stay on top of market trends, geopolitical things that might affect my clients. Like as a consultant, I'm a consultant. I do it more to make sure I'm on top of things. Oh, by the way, Pauline jumped in and said, except when the media is 100% state-run like China or USSR. Good point. Then you can't trust it at all, can you? Sometimes I feel like we're not that far away from being state-run, but that's just me being a little goofy. So I think that I don't really watch or consume media that much. Yeah, I'm on YouTube. I might watch a quick clip of whatever is going on for the day. Maybe there's a live statement like with the COVID thing. I might watch the Trump administration for a few minutes to see what's the latest. But I'm not consuming a lot of news. And strangely, I'm not on Facebook. I have an account for client work, but I'm not on all these platforms to get information. And strangely, I know everything I need to know. So I guess my solution to the problem has just been to walk away from it. I'm not living like a hermit. I have to be engaged. I have to know what's going on. I skim headlines here and there. I watch a video clip here or there, maybe in the morning or in the evening, but I'm just not consuming a lot of news media. And I do fine. I read articles. Like I said, I do subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. I've got a Medium account. I don't read a ton of Medium, but I'm reading more to learn about things like business strategy, ethics, philosophy, economics. I'm always reading to enrich myself on a deeper level and wanting to grow. And then I'm applying that on a day-to-day basis against the things that I bump up against. So I don't know if that works for you, but I tend to tune it all out. I feel like I'm not giving you the kind of answer you're looking for, but that's the truth. Let's see. Cheese Curl, don't become a fake guru. You have my word on it. You said that. I read that earlier. Ed, 8855 Duncan, I'll support whatever you decide to do. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I guess for me, it's like I want to provide information on things like entrepreneurship, on revenue generation, on marketing. If you've got a services business, maybe you want to become a consultant. Maybe you have a small company, like even George with your hotel, but you're trying to market it and grow it. I want to provide information for people that are either running and own small businesses, how to grow them, or want to get into business for themselves. That's where my heart is. I get, as a consultant, I get to work with privately owned businesses. They're usually anywhere from say 10 to 200 million in revenue. I'm working with the owner, the CEO, and their team to help scale that company and to develop this, to develop the sophistication and capabilities of their marketing function, to kind of transform marketing from an overhead into a revenue generator. And I like doing that, but these are bigger companies. They're not huge, but they're bigger companies with resources. And I love entrepreneurship. I just love seeing people thrive and have an opportunity to get in and make it happen. So that's kind of why I want to do that. So yeah. Bordy says, great stuff. Thanks for the live stream from Amsterdam. Yeah, great city. I've been there before. Wonderful. Whilst being in quarantine, I'm reading War and Peace. Fantastic. And Count of Monte Cristo. Boy, there's getting some literature on. That's great. So it should be set for at least a couple of weeks. I would say so. Pauline says, have you read anything by Ryan Holiday like The Obstacle is the Way? I listened to a few on Audible and enjoyed them. You know, Pauline, I subscribe to Ryan's newsletter. He's got a free newsletter. I don't pay for it. I've not read one of his books. I've read a handful of his articles, and I've just liked his take. He's very big on Stoicism, the Stoics, and I've thought for years, like, I should read some of his books. He just came out with a book, I want to say recently. I don't know if it's The Obstacle's the Way or maybe it's a different one. Which one of his books would you recommend? Because I've been wanting to read some of Ryan's stuff outside of just his email that comes out once every couple of weeks, but I've got a lot of respect for him. I've read, he mentored under a guy named Robert Greene, and I have read some of Greene's work. There's a book that he wrote called Power, which I thought was fascinating. And I think that Ryan learned a lot from Robert and got his start kind of as an author working for Robert Greene. So I'm kind of interested to learn more about Ryan and maybe read some of his work, but I haven't known where to start. So George, so I am much too small for you. Well, I mean, look, is my kind of day job maybe, but don't worry. Like, George, if I can help you just as a friend, let me know what I can do for you. But that tends to be my consulting client mix. I've just found that companies under 10 million, the kind of work that I do isn't usually a good fit. That's not to say that I don't work with individuals. I've done a little bit of coaching and mentoring. That's a little different. But that's why I want to do some type of products so that I could serve people at a different level that aren't saying like, hey, I've got $50,000. Can you come in and help me? Not that all my clients do that, but just meaning, it's like, hey, I've got $80 and I can learn something that I can apply in my business from Mike. I just want to be able to provide that to everybody. So we'll see. Well, I'm in the exploration phase right now. So you've only listened to Pauline, The Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy. I'd recommend either. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've been thinking about grabbing one of his books. Maybe I'll grab, I want to see which one is his latest one. But I've heard a lot about The Obstacle is the Way, not so much about the ego, but I know that Ryan's big into Stoicism. Yeah. So someone asked at the beginning of the live stream, and I don't know if you're still here or not, but someone asked if I would give, I was Amir. So Amir, I'm not sure if you're here still, but he asked if I would be willing to give a little bit of my background. Amir, if you're here, I'll still give it. If not, unless anybody else wants to hear it, but I guess I'll just share it real quick. So my background, studied communication, so really young, finished high school, went to Bible school. I was interested in becoming a pastor, a minister. Got into that work a little bit, studying, and realized that I felt like it might be too limiting for me. Now, who says working for God would be too limiting? How arrogant is that? But what I mean is the whole, hey, cheese curler, got to go. Thanks for stream. I'm glad to see you, man. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad you enjoyed the videos, and I'm glad you found me. Hope to see you again. Just real quick, so I decided to kind of shift gears. I studied communication and graphic design in college. And I've kind of worked in sales and marketing for most of my career. And as I worked for companies, I worked for big and small companies. I worked for Honeywell for a while. I worked for a national publisher in the U.S. I've worked for smaller companies, manufacturer, like a regional sales manager for a small manufacturer, et cetera. But I just found over time, as I was going through my 20s and into my early 30s, that I really wanted to own my own business. I've always been entrepreneurial. As a young kid, I was entrepreneurial, and I found that I would bounce from place to place. 1 year here, 2.5 years, I just kept bouncing. I always got a better job, always made more money, but I just never stayed anywhere very long. And so in the early mid-90s, I sat down with a recruiter, and I said, hey, I've been doing this job for a while. I'm looking for something new. And she looked at me and she's like, I'm not going to get you a new job. And I was like, And I wasn't a hot commodity, but I was a pretty heavy hitter as a salesperson. I was a good sales executive, and I knew that I was worth a lot in that area. And Neon Banana, get out of here. So let me just pause for a minute. First of all, thank you. And I have to say this is momentous because nobody's ever done one. I forget if you call it a super chat or whatever, but no one's ever thrown a couple nickels at me for this in a chat. That's just really cool. It just means a lot. It's very kind of you. Thank you, Neon. I appreciate it. So I'm glad to give the time too, by the way. So I'll just go back to the story. So she said, no, I'm not going to help you find a job. I'm like, why? She goes, because I'm going to place you with one of my clients. They're going to want you. You're awesome. Okay. But you're going to be bored. And in 6 months, a year, 2 years, you're going to be right back in my office looking for a new job. And I was like, I felt kind of funny, right? And she said, here's the thing. You need to own your own business. Now it was almost, I didn't know this lady. It was almost like a religious experience. Like she just opened up my head and was looking in a way that I couldn't even see it. And she's like, you need to own your own business. You're never going to be happy until you own your own business. And so here's what I'm recommending. I'm not going to get you a job. You need to either go out and start a company or buy a business or find some 50-year-old guy who's looking for an apprentice that he will groom to take over the business at some point. But the last thing you need is another job. You need to own your own thing. I was like, wow. It was literally like a religious experience. I just felt like, and I knew she was right. And I came home that day and I told my wife, and she's like, yeah, that's right. So I'm kind of thinking about this, and a handful of months go by, and I'm approached by someone that I used to know in grade school, a friend of mine. I used to go to his parents had a farm, used to hang out, ride horses together. We went to school, Catholic schools together. And long and short of it, we went different ways for high school. I never saw him. This is someone I hadn't seen in 20 years. But he said, yeah, I'm working over at this design agency. And we got talking, and I stopped by and talked to him and a couple of the other folks there. And essentially, their owner had passed away a couple years before, and the employees were running the business. And the business was a really good business. These are wonderful, lovely people. The business was well respected, but there really wasn't an owner at the helm. And they said, the widow of our owner, she owns the company now, but we think she wants to sell the business. We're looking for someone to take over the business. And this was like a dream come true for me. It was a design company. They just did great work. I was in marketing. I minored in design in college. I love design. And I thought, this is great. So long story short, I took over as president of that company, and then I negotiated to buy it. I acquired the company, and I owned and ran it for 15 years. About 3.5 years ago, I wound that business down. I shut it down to go consulting full time. And the reason I did that is the market continued to change. It was a great company, great people. The city that we were in, the world was just changing. And I just felt like I was so busy trying to keep the company going and making sure my employees had all kinds of work, which was hard to do at times. And I wasn't doing the kind of work that I wanted to do. And I think I had grown through the years. So initially I loved owning it. I loved going out and selling. I liked kind of watching the design process. But as I matured and got older and I did more work with clients, I was doing more and more strategic work. I've always been kind of strategic, big picture strategic work. And so what happened was I was having to go out and sell tactical design projects, website redesigns and video shoots and brochure and logo jobs and that type of thing, corporate identity. But I wanted to do strategy. I really loved the strategy. And I was just struggling for a while. I was chafing, like, at all this responsibility. I had to make payroll, and it was stressful. And at the same time, I wasn't doing work that I enjoyed. I wasn't happy anymore. And I'll just share with you guys have hung in there long enough. I mean, I was praying about it. You guys kind of know I think some of you know I'm a Christian. I was praying like, God, please, I don't want to do this business anymore. But I didn't feel free to just walk away. It didn't feel right to just walk away from these wonderful people that have been through thick and thin. They've been through the economic crash with me. I mean, these are just great, great people. And I felt that I owed them something. And so I hung in there. And one day, the same guy that I had gone to grade school with, he went with me to help close a deal. And he was watching me present. And we got back to the office, and he said to me, and I'll never forget this, we're holding you back. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, I can tell in these meetings that you're selling on a whole nother level. You want to bring a different kind of value to the client, but then you're forced to sell what we do. And I feel like we are holding you back. You should be free to do what's in your heart and you're capable of doing. And it was just now I'm one of these YouTubers, I'm going to get all choked up. It was just very powerful. It was a very generous thing for him to say to me. He didn't have to say that, and it was not in his best interest to share that with me. He needs to feed a family. This is a very good man, and it just was really touching. So it was very eye-opening, and that began a process of me coming to terms with where I was in life, how much time I had, what I had become experientially, and where I wanted to go. And the business was struggling, and I just felt free at that point. This was a progression of time after that discussion with that key employee, but I realized it was time. And so then I shut the business down. That was 3.5 years. It was August 1st, 2016. Here we are, 2020, coming up on 4 years in August. And I've been a strategic brand and marketing consultant since then, and it's been phenomenal. I'm so grateful. It was hard to shut down the business. It was heartbreaking in some ways. Fortunately, all my employees did really well. Everybody landed on their feet. Everybody got great jobs, and I'm grateful for that. They deserved them. They were good people. But here I am, and I'm humbled by that. I'm very humbled by that. Lots of good people in my life, and I get to do work that I love, which not many people on this planet get to say. And so that's it. I guess it's a little deep for me. I apologize if I'm a little emotional about that, but that's my story, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So I've really enjoyed our discussion today. I hope I haven't lost everybody. I know the chat like quieted right down, so either you guys are just like, I don't want to say anything because this guy's getting a little emotional, or maybe it's time to wrap things up. But I got to tell you, I am grateful. I'm so grateful. I look forward to these live streams. And I'm just going to keep doing them. I don't care if there's just 2 or 3 people here. We're all stuck inside. I think it's going to be a while before this COVID-19 thing plays itself out. So let's keep each other company. I'll keep doing these live streams on the weekends, and we'll go from there. But yeah, thank you for the comments. I as I say at the end of every video, and I do mean it, I do love you guys. I'm very grateful for the part that you play in my life as well. We haven't met. My son is still there, right? And Omar, thank you. I'm glad. I am grateful for the part you play in my life. We've never met face to face. Maybe this community gets big enough, because I do travel from time to time. Maybe I'll let you know, hey, I'm in such and such a city, and we can do a meetup. I think that's if the YouTube channel gets really big. That's kind of like a dream come true. But you never know how things work out in life. You never know. So I will remember to wash my hands. I promise. Thank you, Pauline. I'm grateful for that. And good discussion. So before I go, any questions before I wrap up? We'll do another couple minutes. If there's nothing, then I will wish you all adieu. I'll just kind of look at the stream here for a second. Yes. What do you got for me? This is kind of fun. It's amazing, isn't it? This technology. I don't mean this like an old man. I'm just saying, like, it's just crazy what we're capable of doing these days. So I'm just kind of waiting. I'm not sure, Omar, if you've got a question or not. If you do, I'm just kind of waiting for your question, then we'll go from there. Oh boy, well, that was emotional. I maybe crack open a bottle of wine after this. Well, I'm not sure. There it is. No question. Sorry, Omar, I put you on the spot like that. Guys, why don't we do this? Why don't we wrap things up? I am, again, grateful. Love each and every one of you. I hope through this whole COVID-19 thing that each and every one of you is safe, that the loved ones that you have are safe as well. And let's just keep encouraging each other. Let me know if there are things I can do to help. And do I come to Canada much? Pauline, I'll just tell you real quick. I am right across the border from Toronto. I'm in Rochester, New York. What part of Canada are you in? I don't remember. What province? Are you in Ontario? Because, I do get up there from time to time. My wife actually, we go up sometimes to Niagara on the lake, which is kind of cool. And there's some nice vineyards up there for ice wine, etc. So yes, we're pretty close to the Canadian border, but it would depend. Canada, like the US, big countries, so it depends what part you're in. But yeah, guys, I'm grateful. So I hope you're all doing great. And let's encourage each other. Let's just keep hanging out, talking, and spread the word. If you got some friends that you think might get a kick out of joining the live stream, I'd love to have them along. And oh, you're in Alberta. You're a little far from me. I've never been to Alberta. I've never even been out to the West Coast like Vancouver. It's just mainly Ontario because that's just about an hour and a half from where I live. So, guys, I love you all. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right? Cheers.